Hello there, and welcome to the Stay Off My Lawn podcast, where we'll have a little fun, lots of laughs, and discussions on the common sense that needs to be applied to a lot of today's world news issues. And now, the disclaimer. Stay Off My Lawn is not intended as legal, medical, or financial advice. Void where prohibited. No purchase necessary to win. Open to legal U.S. residents 18 or older in the contiguous 48 states. Any resemblance to anyone living or deceased is purely coincidental. Actual price may vary. Only use as directed. Not a member of FDIC. And now, here are your hosts, Mike and Richard.
Take that. Welcome to this week's edition of Stay Off My Lawn. It's June 3rd, I can't believe it's June already, 2025. And this is episode 120, or as the kids call it, 120. And don't forget,
portions of the following program were pre-recorded.
So we have that. Anyway.
Wow, we're getting fancy with our intros now, aren't we?
Once in a while, we got to throw something in there to make it, to kind of toss the salad a little bit. I mean, we have to do something.
And we've lost our sponsor. We're no longer sponsored by Pfizer.
That's right, because we refused to get the shot, just like a lot of the people that touted Pfizer. I saw a story about that just recently. That there was like one of the
somebody just passed away who was the singer, Uptown Girl. I'm telling you everything but his name. Billy Joel.
Oh, yeah.
He was a heavy pusher of that shot.
Was he really? See, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he ain't doing so happy about it anymore.
Is he blaming the shot? I haven't. Oh, really?
That's the last I heard.
Wow. I
mean, when you have something super rare, all of these super rare, this is extremely abnormal. And they suddenly died. All of those things go back to one thing.
Yeah. He had a tour scheduled. He had to cancel the whole thing, I think. And didn't he cancel one from last year partially because of the illness?
I want to say because he was not doing well. And so I think that's probably when he found out. So I don't wish cancer on anybody.
Oh, no,
that's a crappy way to be eaten up from the inside out. And it is not a pleasant way to go. No. And certainly he's like 74 or something, right? I don't remember how old he is exactly, but I mean, he's not a young man. And but the guy is so multi-talented and he's just wrote some fantastic songs. And Barbara actually will go in the and ask Alexa to just play Billy Joel songs, and we'll listen to that as we brush our teeth and everything in the morning. Sometimes it's just he's great, fantastic. We do wish you the best, Billy, if you're listening, since you've got nothing else to do right now. So anyway, since we are, speaking of age, since we are a bit older than some, whenever anybody says what, can you speak up with that?
No, I cannot. Whenever anybody says something about cutting entitlements, the hair in the back of our neck stands right up. Entitlement, my butt, because entitlements make it sound like you're getting something. We talked about this in the promo. Make it sound like you're getting something you don't deserve.
Like you're on a welfare program.
Yes, exactly.
No.
This is something we paid into since I was in high school. Social Security and Medicare and all that stuff. So, I mean,
back when I was making $1.40 an hour as a busboy at a Holiday Inn.
I didn't know you were
That was when I had my first experience with, what are they taking this other stuff out? Because Grandpa used to just pay us in cash to work on he actually paid us to buck hay and stuff. So.
Wow, that's awesome. Now, I was a busboy too. I was a busboy at a place called Smitty's. It was a steak and seafood place. And that was in I was getting $2.01 an hour, but of course we got tips and everything on that.
Well, you were a little younger.
I'm a little younger, yeah.
Things had moved up the line.
Well,
yes, I used to wait on Evel Knievel and his little bratty kid Robbie running around. They didn't eat with the common folk. They would eat earlier in the day, and in the dining area that was for nighttime is where they would.
Did he live in Idaho at that point?
No, that was when he was there doing before he jumped
the Snake River. That's right.
The Snake River jump. Yeah.
Yeah. He was from Butte, Montana, I think, if I'm remembering correctly.
That's right. Yeah. He's a Montana gentleman.
Yeah.
So they were there quite a bit in that summer.
Yeah.
So
interesting. Interesting. Yeah, we waited on the Allman Brothers one night. I may have told this story before, but that was really kind of neat. We just saw these grungy looking guys. They had just did a concert in Fort Myers. They were heading to Tampa, and this is probably 1981. And the mom was with him, and the whole thing. Everybody was there. And Greg Allman was the one who paid for it on his American Express, which at that time you didn't see a lot of credit cards. But it was like the waitress Debbie Shaughnessy, I think it was, or Debbie. I can't remember her last name. Anyway, she came back and says, "Look who it is!" And it's like, and then we sat back there, and they were like super friendly. They were fantastic people.
Well, in contrast to the arrogance that the Knievels had. Yeah. Jonathan Winters stayed and was at the hotel and I guess was eating in the dining room also so he could get a little peace and quiet. I can understand that. But what he did was before he left, he just went up to the kitchen doors where the service would come in and out. Yeah. He just went over and popped the door open and just came back to the kitchen and just said hi to everybody in the kitchen. Thanks for making a wonderful meal. And he stood there for like 10 minutes just chit-chatting.
Wow.
What a wonderfully nice gentleman compared to the others that like, oh, you underlings, please, I need waited on.
It's almost like it's one way or the other, complete opposite ends, because we met the guy who played on Seinfeld, the postman. I can't think of his name off the top of my head.
Newman,
yeah.
But I don't remember what. I can't think of his name. I can see him, but
I used to have it on top of my head, and I don't have it anymore. But he's from Cartersville, Georgia, and we saw him in Kroger one night, and it was around Christmas time. His mother still lived here, and he would come back around every year and spend a couple of weeks with her, and so we happened to be walking around Kroger, and it's like, oh, I just had the name, and it just slipped right by. Anyway, but we saw him in Kroger, and of course he was letting. It was back when we had flip phones. It was a few years back, but he was letting people take pictures, and he was like just such a nice guy. I mean, shook our hand, hugged my wife, and he's just a nice person, just down to earth. And it's nice to see that once in a while because you do hear so much about the arrogance of some of these people. Wayne Knight, there it is.
There you go. That's it. Yep. This segment has been brought to you by famous people we've met.
I've got a couple
more. And now
more.
Back to our regularly scheduled program.
I've got a couple more that didn't go so well. Anyway, since we're talking about entitlements, Laura Ingraham was talking to the guy that might be Ohio's next governor, Vivek Ramaswamy, about entitlements. And he's got a little bit of a different take on the future of all that stuff. And here's how that went.
Vivek, is Elon right? Does the big, beautiful bill undermine what DOGE was all about?
Well, look, I think the DOGE cuts need to be made, but as you pointed out, Laura, that's $9 billion against the backdrop of a $36 trillion national debt, on track to become $60 trillion in 10 years, with a $2 trillion deficit each year. It's like picking a barnacle off the back of a whale. We got to deal with the actual issue at some point. We're going to have the courage to take on independence from the federal entitlement state. That's what we actually need to be talking about. And I personally believe that everything else ends up being a distraction from the real topic of dealing with this national debt issue. Ask the question of how we're going to start with a generation of Americans who hopefully becomes so wealthy that they don't need the federal entitlement state that Lyndon Johnson created. And at some point, we're going to have to muster the courage to take that on. Until we do that, I think everything else is mostly a distraction. And one of the things I'm looking to do in Ohio is to set up a model for how we wean ourselves off that entitlement state while creating wealth in the process.
Well, I mean, I'm always shocked when people are shocked that Washington never wants to cut spending. Like people, have you not seen what they've done? And this is $3.9 trillion added to the federal deficit. And what I think some Republicans hope, wishful thinking perhaps, but maybe some of it's true, is they hope there's going to be so much investment that's going to override this concern about the deficit. They're going to grow their way out of this deficit and interest rate debt bomb problem. But to me, that seems like very wishful thinking.
Well, financial markets certainly believe that because you see the 10-year Treasury rates continue to push upwards. We're paying more on interest payments right now than the entire U.S. military budget. Our defense budget is smaller than the interest payments on our national debt. So it's a time, Laura, I don't think it's too late. It's a time to wake up and ask the question of, at some point, a kid born in this country next year, when we celebrate the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence in 2026, that kid is going to grow up into a country where that debt is on their shoulders. And they're not going to have money for Social Security or Medicare because we'll have run out for that money by then. I think we need to ask the question of how do we create that generation that is so financially successful that they declare independence from the federal nanny state. That's the Declaration of Independence we really need.
There's so much to unwrap there, but I do like the idea of the federal government getting out of our retirement plan and Social Security being part of that. And of course, Lyndon Johnson was a terrible president, and that was just one of his failures there. I understood where he was coming from at the time, but it ended up blowing up in our face. Plus, the president wanting $3.9 trillion raise of the debt ceiling, which I just don't understand. With all the Doge cuts, like they were talking about earlier, why those Doge cuts are in there?
Yeah, we've got to get rid of more of this, but it's really convenient to me to when somebody talks about this, they never bother to mention, here's the cost of it. How much money is coming in for this? And I realize that because the boomer, my generation, us boomers, well, there's too damn many of us.
Well, we were born back in '06 and things were just different back then.
Ma and Pa didn't have anything better to do than make youngins. War's over. Woohoo!
Come over here, baby.
My rifle. This is my gun. Anyway.
Oh, gee.
For those of you in the service, I won't go any further. But yes, they were having lots of fun. Yeah, it's an entitlement, but it's also, somebody called it a giant Ponzi scheme, and that might have been Elon. It's the biggest Ponzi because you've got those at the bottom are paying for those that are at the top. And those at the top paid into it for 50 years. Yeah, maybe it wasn't that much money. And right now, if you try to live on just Social Security, you are so screwed. It ain't enough to do spit with.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? $2,000 a month if you're lucky.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you can hardly rent an apartment for that just about anywhere in the country. I mean, it's just
the apartment. You have nothing for anything
utilities.
Else that's going on. My trash company has had crappy service, and I rated them, and they actually called me on it. I went, well, here's the problem. Yeah, here's the problem. You haven't done this, and you haven't done that. Nothing was said about this, and this wasn't taken care of. I used to deliver your uniforms. If I would have missed by 6 hours getting your uniforms there, all hell would have broke loose. You guys would have been on us, and we're going to go somewhere else, blah, blah, blah. So the guy just went, oh.
That reminds me, we had a guy come to the door yesterday and said that he's representing a new trash company that's out of Forsyth County, Georgia, and it's like we just opened up this territory, and he's like, it's $54 every quarter instead of $75 every quarter. So I'm like, well, yeah, I'll switch. Why not? It was a nice guy.
Oh, I would in a heartbeat if there was something here that was going to the little small mom and pop one they bought up out this way. And I told the wife, I said, they bought them, you watch, rates will just go boom.
That's
boom,
exactly
boom.
What happened.
It's gone up 30% in less than 2 years.
It's same thing with us. We had a place called Georgia Waste, and they were great, and they were always on time. Didn't matter whether it was a holiday or whatever, always on time. And then Trash Taxi came over and bought them out, and then things kind of went downhill from there. It's like, well, and then the price went up, of course, and went from 55 to 75, and no notification. Just one day, the auto debit came out, and there you go. I don't know, but anyway, we'll have to wait and see how this whole Social Security thing works out. You know what? If they just paid me back everything I put in over the years and said, well, our relationship is over, okay, just pay me back. I don't know how much it's going to be. I don't know.
It's just not enough to live on, and they're not addressing that either. And now they just want to get rid of it. And when people like this, and there's a senator who had all kinds of charts, and that's what he keeps doing is calling it entitlement. And he's going, this is how much we're paying out on. Nothing's ever mentioned about how much are you getting in and why. Right now there is billions and billions that are going to people over 120 years old.
Yeah. And
it's ridiculous.
Haven't they dipped their dirty little fingers in there for other things?
Many times. They don't want to talk about that either.
No. And then that should have never
there was
been done.
one senator a few years back that said, well, yeah, we borrowed from Social Security for investment. The investment did great, and we put the money back that we borrowed. What about the extra you got for the investment if that's what you did?
Yeah.
It's like going and borrowing from your company saying, oh, I'm going to make a bunch of money on this. I'll just put this back in the till later. Wait a minute. No. That's not how it works.
I think that's called embezzlement, which is a friend of ours that just got put away for. But that's embezzlement. Yeah, and it's illegal. So have a nice day.
Enjoy your stay at the Gray Bar Hilton.
You know what? We're at a break already. We talked way too much about other stuff, and it was my fault. I put my hand up. When we come back, we're going to hear from Tim Walz, who was invited to speak at the South Carolina Democratic Convention. Oh my goodness, this poor guy. So we'll hear from him and all that wisdom when we come back. So hang in there.
Stay tuned. More of the Stay Off My Lawn podcast is coming up.
Bud Light presents Real Men of Genius.
Real Men of Genius.
Today we salute you, Mr. Really Big Pet Snake Owner.
Mr. Really Big Pet Snake Owner.
No walks, no barking, no picking up poo. Just the remote chance it might strangle you.
Oh!
Sure, dogs are faithful companions, but can they swallow a sheep whole?
Totally awesome.
It's not as creepy as a tarantula, but you probably have one of those too.
One big happy family.
And best of all, it doesn't hurt your social life to be known around town as the guy with the giant snake.
96 inches.
So crack open an ice cold Bud Light, Mr. Slither. We'd like to shake your hand. But first, put away your snake. Bud Light Beer, Anheuser-Busch, St. Louis, Missouri.
We always pretend to be ready.
Ready is kind of a state of mind. We're sort of ready. Welcome back to Stay Off My Lawn segment 2, and we're gonna jump right into Tim Walz, who is I normally go to him for my wisdom, and because nothing says gritty Midwesterner like tampons in a boys' room. I mean, that's what I'm thinking. So anyway,
well, that explains a lot about you if that's where you're going for your wisdom.
He was at the South Carolina Democratic Convention this past weekend, and here's part of what he had to say. I couldn't play it all because I haven't eaten yet today.
Be here all day.
The dry heaves. It is just really terrible. So here's what he had to say
on this. Because I called Donald Trump a wannabe dictator, it's because he is. It's because he is. Oh. The governor's being mean, and the governor's speaking out on that. Well, maybe it's time for us to be a little meaner. Maybe it's time for us to be a little more fierce. Because we have to ferociously push back on this. And again, I'll speak to my teacher colleagues in here. The thing that bothers a teacher more than anything is to watch a bully.
If you're going to try to be meaner, what does that make you? They
have no solutions. That's all they're doing. Any Democrat of anywhere in any newsroom is nothing but attacking Trump.
Yeah, that's all it is.
What's an alternative? Do you have a better solution? I'm ready to listen.
Yeah, they don't.
No, it's just that no, I'm not listening anymore if you don't have your own solution. If all you're going to do is gritch about it, no.
No, I'm not listening anymore. La 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 la. Yeah, I mean, but he's one of those guys, and apparently everybody else was taken, so they chose the weakest member of the Democratic Party to invite to the convention. We go to our convention this weekend because we're delegate for the state of Georgia. Barbara and I are, and we got Steve Bannon. I mean, think about the difference between Steve Bannon and Tim Walz. Oh my goodness gracious!
He was probably on the clearance rack. and that's somebody they could have afforded.
Pick me. Oh my goodness. He's a year younger than I am. And it just makes me feel so old just watching him. Jeez.
I'm not doing anything as a governor. I'll come.
Yeah. I'm not doing anything. We are chock full of tampons in the boys' room. So, I mean, oh, for goodness sake. Anyway, we talk about how impractical switching to solar power exclusively anyway, and not just a backup. But even though the climate nutters love to fantasize about it out loud, that, we can have this, we can have wind and solar and we can make it all work, man. We can make it all work. Anyway, there's this guy, Gerard Holland. He's an Australian. He's the CEO of Prager Research Center in Australia. And he explains how ridiculous an idea this is, at least the way technology is now. Here's him.
Oh, he does a good job.
To power 100,000 homes for 1 hour, you need 50,000 tons of solar panels, about 3,000 AFL fields to power for 1 hour. But of course, that's assuming that the sun is shining. If I want to produce this hour of electricity in the evening when the sun isn't shining, well, then I need batteries. Now, for 1 hour of electricity for this 100,000 homes, you need about 50 Tesla batteries. This is about 2 basketball courts worth of batteries. But of course, I have to charge these batteries. So that means I need additional solar in the grid so that we have an excess to charge them. So we add another 600 AFL fields of solar panels. This is for 1 hour. And then those batteries are fully discharged. If you want 2 hours, another 600 AFL fields of solar panels, another 2 basketball courts of Tesla batteries, and so on and so on and so on.
600 AFL fields, or which would be a football field for us.
Yeah, well, AFL, it's the Australian Football League, and it's a cross between
rugby and football
and rugby. Yeah. It's at least they took away the white coats of the umpires that were standing on the goal line when they would. That used to just crack me up with they would put their arms straight out.
That was great.
Not up, just they put them out, and it's like, okay, they scored a touchdown.
Those guys are tough.
What was that? Are you ready to go into the lab now? What are you cooking up over there? Yeah, they don't have the white coats on anymore. I happened to run across it the other day and was kind of I was disappointed they weren't there with their white coats. Still doing the same signal, but.
Well, if there's an AFL team up in the Northern Territories, it's really hot up there. So I would imagine they just didn't want to put daggum coats on, I would think. But you got to think, for an hour, for 100,000 people. Think about a city the size of Atlanta. I live near Atlanta. So there's 8 million people in the metro of Atlanta, or maybe 7 million. So, I mean, that's just 100,000, 600 football fields for 100,000 people. Do the math, people. This is just not.
It just is not sustainable with all this stuff you have. I'm out in the West where the Rockies and runoff, and you have all that stuff, and our power comes primarily hydropower. The water runs through, it spins around. They now have means of being able to cool the water down after it goes through a hot turbine that it's turning, and they have ladders for the fish that have figured things out, and yet you still have these environmentalists that we need to blow these dams up. Okay, tell that to the farmers that are feeding us, because when you're in the high desert, if you don't have water, you have nothing.
Well, these
will grow.
These nerds that are calling for that kind of thing are they would be lost without power. I mean, I
don't have internet. Why don't I have? Because it's down. There wasn't enough power to run it.
Apparently, yeah. They're not thinking about what the true ramifications would be if you blew up all the dams. It's
not the brightest tools in the shed there, boy.
Apparently not.
That elevator kind of got stuck, didn't it? At the bottom floor.
Yeah, between the bottom and the basement. Yeah, it's right in that area. I can't get out. Anyway, we did have a bad anti-Semitism attack on Sunday here in America. Boulder, Colorado had a terror attack on Sunday during a peaceful weekly march by peaceful Jewish demonstrators that were, all they did was every week now they would get together on a Sunday and advocate for the release of the hostages in Gaza. But this dude, Mohammed Salameen, or I don't know how to say his name, him. But he
Well,
hurled,
so that get.
yeah, he hurled Molotov cocktails directly into a crowd. Children were caught in the flames. Multiple victims were seriously injured and are still in the hospital. That was the last thing I had read, and maybe there was an update this morning that I didn't see, so forgive me. But according to 3 senior DHS sources, the Boulder terror suspect is an Egyptian national, and he is in the U.S. illegally on a visa overstay, who entered the U.S. during, of course, Uncle Joe's administration. So,
What a shocker.
I know. Just one of the 20 million, I guess. So I don't know. But Scott Jennings summed it up on Jake Tapper's show yesterday, which Jake Tapper let him go. I was really kind of surprised. But here's Scott Jennings, one of my heroes on CNN.
Well,
Yes.
I mean, this is horrific. And what more do we need to see, Jake, before we realize this Free Palestine movement is nothing more than a domestic terror organization right now? I mean, we had the killings in Washington a couple of weeks ago. We have this issue in Colorado. We've seen, the activities on college campuses now for months and months and months and months. The rise of anti-Semitism in America, the rise in the number of people who have come to America who hold anti-American views, anti-Western views, and anti-Semitic views and are now willing to act on it. It is absolutely outrageous. And I think as a society, we need to understand we are dealing with domestic terrorism. It's growing more violent by the day. And if we don't deal with it, these kinds of things are going to keep happening in cities all over the place. It's awful. And we need to come to grips with the fight that we're in right now in America, a fight for the future of our country and the future of Western civilization, in my opinion.
Yeah, it continues to get worse. I mean, college campuses.
They are, no offense or whatever, but if it does offend you, well, tough beaners. They're such a barbaric, their thoughts on the way things should be is stuff from like the 1500s. It's like, give me it's just barbaric as all get out. This is what you want to do. And I'm,
well, their little books tell them that to kill the infidels, and some of them try to say that it doesn't say that, but it really does. So I mean, that's fine if that's how you feel. I mean, I guess it's just don't call yourself a peaceful religion because that's just
you're
not
anything
the case.
but. They're peaceful as long as you believe what they believe, and in some of these countries, if you are caught worshiping others, you get a chance to redeem yourself. Otherwise, you're executed.
Yep. Unfortunately. Noah Tishby, I've not heard of this lady before, but she's a New York Times bestselling author. She's an actress. She's been on several cop shows here in America. She's also Israel's former special envoy for combating anti-Semitism and delegitimization. She spoke at a global conference a few weeks ago and had a lot to say about this subject specifically.
There is an entire region that needs to be transformed. It needs to be transformed from the inside out. You know who understands what I'm saying right now? Saudis, exactly. The Jordanians. Any country in the Middle East that outlawed the Muslim Brotherhood, that outlawed Al Jazeera to some extent, that understands that that culture is dangerous for them too. What's happening now is not Israel's problem. This is not Israel's problem. It's not the problem of the Jews. It's not even just the problem of the Middle East. What's happening right now is nothing short of a cultural conflict that if we don't wake up in the West to understand that that is what's happening, we're going to be screwed. So here's the thing. Israel is on the front line of a worldwide fight. Right? It's a fight between liberal values, whether liberal democracies or whatever it is that we hold dear, things that we see as self-evident, human rights, women's rights, everything that the water we swim in, right? To us, it's very obvious that I'm equal to you. Like, where is the question there, right? When I moved here as a progressive Israeli, I was very surprised and disheartened to see that a lot of Americans don't understand the culture in the Middle East. And they superimpose what it is that they think of American culture into the Middle East, thinking that it's the same. So knowing what the Middle East is, I understood that there's a bigger problem here. And that problem is called jihadism. That is a realization that we need to understand this in America. okay? We need to understand that that is the kind of culture that we're dealing with. And it's not a culture that can be appeased by land or by any, there's no two-state solution conversation happening around that culture. And sadly, right now, what we're seeing is that that particular culture has more fans and supporters on college campuses in America than it does in the Middle East. And that is something that is on each and every one of us.
So,
yeah, I mean, she spoke perfectly.
Yep.
I mean,
well, and these kids that are on the campuses that are being indoctrinated have no clue what they're even talking about.
no.
None. They just haven't got a clue. And the liberal news media, I'm going to blame them as well, because they wouldn't even call this guy a terrorist in our country or an illegal alien. Right. They wouldn't do it. They go, well, we're still investigating. What is there to investigate? There he is. His shirt's off. It's like he's throwing it. What is there you need?
CNN and MSNBC
I'm
even called him a white guy.
I'm going to blame the news media as well. It really irks me.
Yeah,
they are one of the biggest problems we have in this country right now.
No, I couldn't agree more. And even as much as you and I have read about all this and listened to people, then we couldn't even begin to understand the culture of the Middle East. And it's been around thousands of years. I mean, and like you said, I mean, like she said, we couldn't even scratch the surface. And these young kids in college, there's no way they understand it either.
Nope. They haven't got a clue.
All they know is what
they think they're smart because they're in college. Yeah. No, you're not.
Oh, yeah.
Trust me. No, you're not.
That's certainly a big part of it. Yeah.
You haven't got the common sense God gave a rock.
No doubt. No doubt. Hey, we are up against a break. When we come back, we're going to hear a little bit from the ICE director, Todd Lyons, on how the ICE officers have been treated recently. And you're going to want to hear what he has to say. So hang in there. We'll be right back.
More of the Stay Off My Lawn podcast is coming up.
They say you get wiser with age. So, this year, I'm giving myself the gift of a hassle-free credit card. Capital One allows me to monitor my bank, has 0% fraud liability, and dependable 24-hour customer service. It's the wisest gift that keeps on giving.
Welcome back to Stay Off My Lawn, segment 3, and we got a lot to get to here. Sending people to their home country who break in here illegally, it shouldn't be a dangerous thing to do. Seems like everybody ought to be on that same page, but ICE agents are being doxxed. And if you're not familiar with being doxxed is when they take pictures of you and put your home address and your kids' pictures up on the internet and say, hey, these people are deporting our friends. And
no, we're not.
Yeah, no, we're not.
Why do the Democrats want to keep supporting criminals?
I don't know.
Because that's all they're doing. Because, well, now, you know what? I hadn't thought about it before, but I guess that's criminals supporting criminals. They're all kind of, in the same cult, right?
That very well could be. Yeah, I didn't think about that. Yeah. But, it's falling flat on voters. We've got that as the next story. But
I can't wait for that one to come up. That one cracks me up. Yeah, and we were talking off there, and I am of the opinion, and I think the two worst ones is the mayor of Nashville, and I think it's the mayor, maybe even the governor in Seattle, which is in Tacoma, actually. Actually, no, it's in Olympia. That's the capital of Washington. But you are of a high standing in the community, and you're going, here, these are all the people that are doing hard work and doing the thing so that we don't have this happen anymore. You need to be behind bars where you can visit with those kind of folks day in and day out.
But, the Pacific Northwest has just gone so far off the rails as far as politically. I mean, they all buy into this left-wing agenda that illegals, there shouldn't be borders, and it's like, I just,
It's only the big cities that are right along the ocean, and that can fall off any day now. I'm fine with it.
I'm fine with it too. It wouldn't hurt my feelings at all. I want my buddy Larry to retire and get out of there and move to South Carolina first. But other than that, I mean, I got nobody I care about out there. But it's these people that just hate our country's immigration policies that are doing this kind of stuff. And anyway, the director of ICE, Todd Lyons, responded to reports about ICE agents protecting themselves. And he was very forceful.
I'm going to answer the mask question. So No, not the mask, the mask. So a lot of agencies were invited to come out 2 weeks ago in Los Angeles where we ran an operation where ICE officers were doxxed. So let's just say that again. People are out there taking photos of the names, their faces, and posting them online with death threats to their family and themselves. So I'm sorry if people are offended by them wearing masks, but I'm not going to let my officers and agents go out there and put their lives on the line and their family on the line because people don't like what immigration enforcement is. They are wearing those masks because we ran an operation with the Secret Service where we arrested someone that was going online, taking their photos, posting their families, their kids' Instagram, their kids' Facebooks, and targeting them. So let me ask, is that the issue here, that we're just upset about the masks? Or is anyone upset with the fact that ICE officers' families were labeled terrorists?
I don't think the mainstream media is upset about that at all.
Oh, no, like I said before, when I was younger and I remember all the reading about World War II, because I wasn't that far removed from it, going, why the media, why were they in the Nuremberg trials? I get it now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, literally in the last 4 years, it's like, that's why. It's just pure D, out and out lying propaganda. And they're now, instead of just stretching the truth, they just flat out lie.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, they're cutting your Social Security. And I getting sick and tired of AARP going, oh, when we're here to help. No, you're not. You're scaring people that are taking your magazines and reading, what, they're going to cut my, no, they're not.
Again,
and we'll have that later too.
Yes, we will. But that's exactly why we are doing this podcast and why podcasting has gotten so popular. It seems like every Tom, Dick, and Harry has a podcast now, and it's because you can't trust what the media says. You can't trust what these politicians say because they will look you dead in the eye and lie about it, like AARP, another organization that was supposed to be for older people and giving them good information. That's just not the case anymore. But they count on you not doing any research or not looking up your own information.
Yeah, if only there was this device that maybe would fit in your hand that you could look things up for yourself on and go, oh, that's not right.
That's a great idea.
We talked about this a lot, but I do look at MSNBC most every evening for half hour, 40 minutes. And then we have seen interviews in other places, like on podcasts maybe, or what the person said. You see them saying it, then you go to MSN and go,
that's not what
they didn't say any of that. And so, like to research, like to see both sides, and and we have something coming up now. In fact, how's that for a segue?
It's perfect segue. Yeah, I think I'd fall off a segue if I got on one right now. Too much coffee. CNN did come out with a new poll, and they asked all Americans, not just the liberal people that watch CNN. Maybe they did, I don't know. But they came out with a new poll and asked a series of questions about Democrats versus Republicans and how they are viewed. And this is how that report went on CNN. This is part of it.
How Americans sort of see the parties. Which party is better described as the party with strong leaders? Look at this.
Wow.
16% of Americans say Democrats, 40% say that of the Republican Party. Now, overall, no party's doing great. Lots of Americans say neither of these qualities apply to either party. But look at how much worse off the Democrats are. A party that gets things done. Only 19% of Americans say that about the Democrats. 36% say it about the Republicans. In fact, the only place that the Democrats are numerically ahead, party of the middle class, this is basically a tie, though. Yeah. 34% say that of Democrats, 32% say that of Republicans.
I don't think you can call the Democratic Party, if you're being honest, the party of the middle class. I don't think they've ever
not
been.
Anymore. There's no way. They have their oligarchs that are out there doing it. You don't want to mess with the oligarchs. They have more billionaires in the Democratic Party donating to it than do the Republicans. But the Republicans are the oligarchs. It's like, what? Yeah. You are so full of it.
I think I heard somewhere on one of those shows, they were talking about the 80% of the richest counties in America are vote Democrat in the majority. So, I mean,
you're making all your money. You love all of the stuff with the, I started to say commercial. That's not it. Anyway, our economy, the way that it's set up, and then you vote Democrat who wants to get rid of it all. What part of stupid are you? I don't understand that. Well, my daddy used to vote for Democrat, and I'm gonna. I don't care.
I've still got my dad's driver's license from Florida, and they used to put your party affiliation on your driver's license. And he had Democrat on there, but because that's what everybody did. The working people had voted Democrat. I don't think if he was alive today, he'd be like going, I wouldn't vote Democrat on your life. So
I think it's funny. All these polls are on CNN. They, also, during that same thing, they asked if the country was headed in the right direction. And for the first time in I think they said 50, 60 years, it was actually a majority said, yes, it is, which is one of those things where it just doesn't get very high. No. It was over 50%.
It was. That's incredible.
Of respondents said, yeah, we're headed in the right direction. And then there's always these idiots that come on Instagram and put stuff up and go, so is this what you voted for? Man, it just goes a list of 100%. Damn right, that's what I voted for. Blah, 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 blah.
This and then some.
You asked. Here you go.
No, you're absolutely right. And even some of the Democrats in Congress, I just read a story. I'm trying to find it right now real quick. The Kentucky State Senator Robin Webb left the Democratic Party for the GOP on May 30th, just the other day. She cites the party's leftward shift as her reason, and the move bolsters the Republican supermajority in the House. So the Democrats are left with only, in the Senate.
Senate, yeah.
Democrats
I was
only
going to say
left
she was a senator.
Yeah, they're only left with 6 Senate seats. So I don't know. Anyway, the supporters have praised her courage, but yeah, she had to. I think maybe the more some of these people do this, maybe it'll be better.
Well, they're looking and going, I don't stand for any of this. It's an embarrassment to be part of this party, and they're leaving. Yeah. Well, the same thing's happening with folks that are registering. They're either registering as independents or as they don't want to be associated with the Democratic Party. And they can't figure out why they lost the last election. They're not going to win the next one because they just keep doing the same thing.
And that's the thing. I don't think that people are getting more conservative. I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think it's because the left has just gone so far off the rails, going down to El Salvador, trying to back up this MS-13 gang member and men and women's sports. And it's like Maine is doing that right now. It's like, I just don't understand. They don't understand that they're shooting themselves in the foot. I mean, that
they have their feet right now have got to look like Swiss cheese. It's just been filled full of holes of recent.
Yeah. Speaking of Kentucky, Stuart Varney was interviewing House Oversight Committee Chair Kentucky Congressman James Comer about Joe Biden and his sidekick, the auto pen. And Joe might have been
President Autopen.
I think Joe might have been Autopen's sidekick, but anyway, here's how that went.
A new watchdog report from Pro Energy Group just found, quote, no evidence that Biden knew of crucial climate executive orders. They're now demanding answers on who signed with the auto pen. What happens if Biden really didn't know? Are those orders null and void?
I think they would be null and void. Look, at the end of the day, there's more evidence coming out by the second that would prove that Joe Biden wasn't the one making the decisions during the last 100 days of his administration, perhaps the last 6 months or even the last year. This is when the most activity occurred from the executive order standpoint throughout the whole Biden administration.
And, of course, some people are pointing towards Elizabeth Warren that had a lot to do with all this.
Yeah, her name keeps coming up. They do have the 4 staffers. They picked, just turning on the TV, it came up on Fox for whatever reason. Mm-hmm. And looking at that, and that's what came up was the pictures of the 4 staffers that they're looking into. And Elizabeth Warren is... she's part of that also.
But some of those people, you don't even know their name. They were I think I read yesterday that the chief of staff for Jill Biden was kind of like one of those behind the scenes people that were making a lot of decisions when poor Joe was taking a nap or eating ice cream or whatever he was doing. So, I mean, there's a lot of really things. It's going to take years to unwrap all this. So,
well, the Speaker of the House had a conversation with Joe going, why would you stop the exporting of natural gas? This is, these are our allies. He goes, I didn't do that.
He had no idea.
Sir, you did. You signed it. No, I didn't. That was not, it was to do research on whatever. No, sir, that's not what you signed. He had no clue.
President Autopen is what that was. Yeah.
President Autopen approved that.
Oh, my goodness. The problems continue with all the unethical and seemingly illegal stuff that the Biden regime pulled before leaving the White House. This is a report from News Nation, and it's very in-depth, so it's about 2 minutes, but this is really good.
When former President Joe Biden left Washington, D.C., he was leaving behind a DEI secret involving American farmers and $800 million in taxpayer money, and a United States Department of Agriculture whistleblower is now sounding the alarm.
It was to pay off anyone who wasn't a white male's loan. That was the only qualification for this loan forgiveness.
And what was the reaction?
So it was really silent. They were trying to keep this hushed because of the obvious implications of race-based loan forgiveness.
Race-based loan forgiveness. It's in black and white, buried in the American Rescue Plan Act. The United States Secretary of Agriculture shall provide a payment in an amount up to 120% of the outstanding indebtedness of each socially disadvantaged farmer or rancher. The act explicitly lays out who's considered socially disadvantaged.
So just to be clear, if you were American Indian, Alaskan Native, Asian Black, African American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander, Hispanic, or Latino, and you were in that group, you were told you didn't have to pay your bills, essentially?
Yes, that's correct. And that your loan would be forgiven up to 120% of the loan value.
To me, it was combating racism with more racism. I couldn't believe that it was happening in today's age.
James Dunlap owns a small family farm in Baker City, Oregon. He works 2 other jobs to keep his farm afloat, but did not qualify for the loan forgiveness because he's white.
I knew what they were saying was that minority farmers were going to have their loans forgiven for no reason other than they decided to, they being the government. So.
And how much money they had nothing to do with it.
As far as I understand, not at all. It wasn't about hardship. It wasn't about financial situations at all. It was purely what box you checked under that ethnicity line on your application.
If you checked a non-white box, you got the free money, no matter how rich you were. James and other white farmers sued the Biden administration and were successful. The loan forgiveness for any farmer who's not white was stopped. The judge writing in his decision, it was an actual constitutional harm that cannot be undone. And James and other white farmers will suffer the harm of being excluded from eligibility for that debt relief program solely on the basis of his race. That harm he has shown is irreparable.
I think that whistleblower hit the nail on the head when he said, you're fighting racism with more racism. I mean,
yeah, he thought about whether he should say that or not, and I think he just said, "Oh, screw it, I'm saying it anyway."
Yeah,
because there was a pause, and then it came out.
I think he realized his face was blacked out, and nobody could see it. So,
it was. That's just wrong.
Yeah,
that's what our government was. The last 4 years has just been an absolute atrocious mess.
But that's where DEI leads. It just does. I mean, it separates people instead of uniting. I think that probably if you looked at scratch the surface of it, you might think, well, it's good to be inclusive. Well, maybe if you look at it from a 30,000-foot view, but if you look at it practically and how it's affecting people, it's terrible. Absolutely terrible. It's the wrong way to go.
You might be taking a bad situation. You're only making it worse.
Absolutely. We are up against a break. When we come back, we're going to listen to Secretary of Transportation. We have a real one now, Sean Duffy. He's another
Booty Boy anymore.
It's not Booty Boy anymore.
It's not what. Biden used to call him.
I don't know. No, I forget. Well, yeah, there was a lot of names for him, but gig, I don't know. I don't know what his last name was. Anyway, so we have a real Secretary of Transportation. The whole cabinet is a bunch of superstars, and he is one of them. So we'll hear from him when we come back.
If you're in our demographic, it might be a good time to go and pee. We'll be right back in just a minute.
Put a frog in boiling water and it'll jump right out. But put a frog in cool water and slowly heat it up, that frog will boil. As veterans, we tell ourselves the lie that we can handle anything. We let the water boil. You are not a frog. If you or a veteran you know needs support, don't wait. Reach out. Find resources at va.gov/reach. That's va.gov/reach. Brought to you by the United States Department of Veterans Affairs and the Ad Council.
What a shocker. This has never happened to us before.
Situation normal. It's all messed up. So, and welcome back to Stay Off My Lawn segment. We're just time-wise, we are terrible clock keepers. It's just the way it goes.
We make an effort as close as we can get.
we make an effort. That's exact. What more can you ask for? We're retired, so that's just the way it goes. Sean Duffy, Trump's Secretary of Transportation, was testifying in front of Congress, and of course, I don't know who this congressman was, but she was trying to paint a picture that because of all the DOGE cuts, there was a shortage of air traffic controllers. And
she got reamed for that one.
Yeah,
this is awesome. I can hardly wait to hear it again.
He straightened her out pretty good. Here he is.
We have not haven't let any one air traffic controller go. You said that we let 400 go. No one in air traffic control has been allowed to take a deferred resignation offer. We have preserved all of our safety critical mission positions, including air traffic controllers. Not one has been allowed to retire by any of the programs that we've offered. Not one, not 400, zero. We're in this situation because the last administration didn't see to take initiative on the 3,000 controllers short that we were. Under COVID, they didn't stand up the school fast enough to get more kids through Oklahoma so we would have more controllers in the airspace today. The infrastructure didn't rot in the last 100 days. We didn't have 3,000 controller shortages in the last 100 days. There was 4 years that came before.
He's right. I mean, and I think every cabinet department is dealing with that kind of crap.
Well, I like how the Democrat, the House person, whoever it is, Senate person, I don't know where he was at. I forget.
I don't know where he was either.
But it's like, no, I didn't say fired. It's like, well, you need to, say what I say correctly. Oh, no, you don't give a rat's what anybody. You want to bend and move the terminology around, and it's like, you're wrong. And they didn't have a whole lot to come back.
No, she kind of got quiet. I think these libs in Congress forget that the cabinet in this administration isn't full of moronic goobers like it was the last 4 years.
Well, I'm not familiar with that. Really? You're the one in charge and you're not familiar with it? How many times did we hear that?
Oh my gosh. Daily, just about.
When did that happen? You're going in front of Congress. Be prepared. They weren't. They had no idea now.
Even KJP would throw that out once in a while. We didn't really talk about that. No, because Joe's still napping. We had no idea. Anyway.
You didn't catch him between 10 and 4. It's a part-time job.
You were done. As GOP congressmen go, Richard and I are no fans of Dan Crenshaw, and multiple reasons. He's a little bit of a wishy-washy guy, and he's a patriot. I'll give him credit.
He served his country, and that's why he has an eye patch, and all that. We respect that tremendously.
Absolutely.
But what he's been doing in Congress, he's one of those that's made buttloads of money.
Absolutely.
Miraculously in a short period of time. How did you come from nothing to, how did that work out?
That gets on my nerves a little bit. And he's been wishy-washy on things, but a broken clock is right twice a day. And
and he happened to hit this one a nail on the head. He was tired and cranky, and it was 3 a.m, and he let him have it.
This is from a couple of weeks ago when they were doing the debate in the House for this big, beautiful bill that was up. And he kind of laid him out in lavender on what was not in the bill and the lies that the libs on that side of the aisle were trying to tell. Here's how that went.
Number one, Democrats say we're kicking poor people off Medicaid. Here's the reality. CBO numbers. 4.8 million of those numbers are from able-bodied adults choosing not to work. They're not being kicked off. They're being told to work or volunteer or look for work. That directly contradicts what was just said by Ms. Schreier, by the way. Here's another number. 1.6 million are duplicative enrollees who are enrolled in 2 states at the same time. Here's another number. 1.2 million individuals, they're not even eligible for coverage in the first place, just according to the laws that we have. Another 1.4 million people are illegal immigrants. That's not exactly the narrative they've been spinning, is it? Number two, Democrats say we're taking away substance abuse treatment. That is just false. This bill specifically exempts individuals with substance use disorders, full stop. Number three, Democrats say we're cutting Medicaid. Here's the reality. An actual analysis by CBO Medicaid baseline projection shows Medicaid spending will still grow by 6.5% above 2021 projections, even after this $800 billion in savings. So let me ask you, how can one honestly claim we're cutting a program that is actually still growing? Just intellectually. How can you claim that? Asking for a friend. Number four, Democrats say there aren't illegal aliens in Medicaid. Here's the reality. We know states are doing this. California uses a managed care organization tax scheme to shift costs to the federal government. That frees up about $5.2 billion in state funds. California then uses that money to pay for Medicaid coverage for illegal immigrants, skirting the federal ban. This bill closes the loophole by cutting federal funding by 10% for states that use Medicaid or other state-based programs to cover illegal immigrants. Vast majority of Americans would agree with that. Number five, Democrats say we're causing steep state budget cuts by changing provider tax and state-directed payment rules. Here's the reality. State-directed payments in Medicaid managed care arrangements have actually grown by about 62% between February 2023 and August of 2024. These payments do have a place in supporting our hospitals. Texas uses them to support our most needy. But you have to have common sense. You can't let them grow out of control and let them grow indefinitely. All we're doing is freezing the provider tax and state-directed payments. That's it. It's a freeze. This will preserve payments for hospitals that need them. So guess what? Again, no cuts. The sky is not falling. Look, in summary, this bill is nothing like Democrats claim. Nothing. It's past 3 a.m., and I've watched my colleagues make false statement after false statement for the sole purpose of scaring the most vulnerable in our society. Democrats have forced disabled Medicaid recipients to travel to D.C. and crowd the committee room for nothing but cynical political theater. And my message to all of you who are tricked into being here, guess what? Your Medicaid benefits aren't at risk under this bill. Full stop. They're using you, and they're lying to you.
Yeah, and that's how you control people, is make them scared. That's what happened with COVID.
I can't say it any better.
Nope.
Well, and the latest thing that I saw from AARP when they were going, we're not going to let your benefits go. We have worked hard and we've managed to. You didn't save anything.
You didn't do jack.
All you did was scare them and then say, look how wonderful we are. No, you're not. You scared the crap out of people that there are months where it's when you have a 5-week month. Am I going to get my meds this month, or am I going to get some soup I can have to eat?
Right.
That's how bad it is.
Yeah.
And that is not nice.
And you're right. With AARP, they send you that propaganda every month, and I don't even look at it. I just throw it away on the way in. You know, we have a garbage bin out in the garage. But I mean, it's just one of those. It's fear. Fear is an easy way to control people. And this has been around since the Stalin years. I mean, this is you make the populace afraid. They're easier to control. They'll do whatever you tell them. And
they're not getting away with it as their polls just showed
Yeah.
16%. It's like, yeah, you're not doing the right thing, people, just so you know.
Certainly not working. And people have way too many other, at least intelligent people have way too many other places where they can get their information. So,
yeah.
Anyway, we need a palate cleanser, and it is commencement address season. It's June, so people are graduating college. And a few years ago, this guy named Rick Rigsby, I had not known of him before, but Richard and I saw this both. And he's a motivational speaker. He's an author, professor, and a TV personality, I guess out in Texas somewhere. But anyway, he gave a commencement address at the California Maritime University, and here is part of that speech. It's fantastic.
The wisest person I ever met in my life, a third grade dropout. Wisest and dropout in the same sentence is rather oxymoronic, like jumbo shrimp. Like fun run, ain't nothing fun about it. Like Microsoft Works, y'all don't hear me. I used to say like country music, but I've lived in Texas so long, I love country music now. I hunt, I fish, I have cowboy boots, and y'all, I'm a black-necked redneck. Do you hear what I'm saying to you? No longer oxymoronic for me to say country music. And it's not oxymoronic for me to say third grade and dropout. That third grade dropout, the wisest person I ever met in my life, who taught me to combine knowledge and wisdom to make an impact, was my father. A simple cook. Wisest man I ever met in my life. Just a simple cook. Left school in the third grade to help out on the family farm, but just because he left school doesn't mean his education stopped. Mark Twain once said, "I've never allowed my schooling to get in the way of my education." My father taught himself how to read, taught himself how to write, decided in the midst of Jim Crowism, as America was breathing the last gasp of the Civil War, my father decided he was going to stand and be a man. Not a black man, not a brown man, not a white man, but a man. He literally challenged himself to be the best that he could all the days of his life. I have 4 degrees. My brother is a judge. We're not the smartest ones in our family. It's a third grade dropout daddy. A third grade dropout daddy who was quoting Michelangelo, saying to us, "Boys, I won't have a problem if you aim high and miss, but I'm going to have a real issue if you aim low and hit." A country mother quoting Henry Ford, saying, "If you think you can or if you think you can't, you're right." I learned that from a third grade drop. Simple lessons. Lessons like these. Son, you'd rather be an hour early than a minute late. We never knew what time it was at my house because the clocks were always ahead. My mother said for nearly 30 years, my father left the house at 3:45 in the morning. One day she asked him, "Why, Daddy?" He said, "Maybe one of my boys will catch me in the act of excellence. I want to share 2 things with you." Aristotle said, "You are what you repeatedly do." Therefore, excellence ought to be a habit, not an act. Don't ever forget that. I know you're tough, but always remember to be kind. Always. Don't ever forget that. Never embarrass mama. If mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. If daddy ain't happy, don't nobody care. But, you know. Next lesson. Lesson from a cook. Son, make sure your servant's towel is bigger than your ego. Ego is the anesthesia that deadens the pain of stupidity. Y'all might have a relative in mind you want to send that to. Let me say it again. Ego is the anesthesia that deadens the pain of stupidity. Pride is the burden of a foolish person. John Wooden coached basketball at UCLA for a living, but his calling was to impact people. And with all those national championships, guess what he was found doing in the middle of the week? Going into the cupboard, grabbing a broom, and sweeping his own gym floor. You want to make an impact? Find your broom. Every day of your life, you find your broom. You grow your influence that way. That way, you're attracting people so that you can impact them. Final lesson. Son, if you're going to do a job, do it right. I've always been told how average I can be. Always been criticized about being average. But I want to tell you something. I stand here before you before all of these people, not listening to those words, but telling myself every single day to shoot for the stars, to be the best that I can be. Good enough isn't good enough if it can be better, and better isn't good enough if it can be best. Let me close with a very personal story that I think will bring all this into focus. Wisdom will come to you in the unlikeliest of sources, a lot of times through failure. When you hit rock bottom, remember this: while you're struggling, rock bottom can also be a great foundation on which to build and on which to grow. I'm not worried that you'll be successful. I'm worried that you won't fail from time to time. The person that gets up off the canvas and keeps growing, that's the person that will continue to grow their influence. Back in the 70s, to help me make this point, let me introduce you to someone. I met the finest woman I'd ever met in my life. Back in my day, we'd have called her a brick house. This woman was the finest woman I'd ever seen in my life. There's just one little problem. Back then, ladies didn't like big old linemen. The Blind Side hadn't come out yet. They like quarterbacks and running backs. We're at this dance, and I find out her name is Trina Williams from Lompoc, California. And we're all dancing, and we're just excited. And I decide in the middle of dancing with her that I would ask her for her phone number. Trina was the first one. Trina was the only woman in college who gave me her real telephone number. The next day, we walked to Baskin & Robbins ice cream parlor. My friends couldn't believe it. This has been 40 years ago, and my friends still can't believe it. We go on a second date, and a third date, and a fourth date. We drive from Chico to Vallejo so that she could meet my parents. My father meets her. My daddy, my hero, he meets her, pulls me to the side and says, "Is she psycho?" But anyway, we go together for a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. By now, Trina's a senior in college. I'm still a freshman, but I'm working some things out. I'm so glad I graduated in 4 terms. Nixon, Ford, Carter, Reagan. So now it's time to propose. So I talk to her girlfriends, and it's California. It's in the 70s, so it has to be outside. Have to have a candle, and you have to have, some chocolate. Listen, I'm from the hood. I had a bottle of Boone's Farm wine. That's what I had. She said yes. That was the key. I married the most beautiful woman I'd ever seen in my life. Y'all ever been to a wedding, and even before the wedding starts, you hear this? How in the world? And it was coming from my side of the family. We get married, we have a few children, our lives are great. One day, Trina finds a lump in her left breast. Breast cancer. 6 years after that diagnosis, me and my 2 little boys walked up to Mommy's casket. And for 2 years, my heart didn't beat. If it wasn't for my faith in God, I wouldn't be standing here today. If it wasn't for those 2 little boys, there would have been no reason for which to go on. I was completely lost. That was rock bottom. You know what sustained me? The wisdom of a 3rd grade dropout. The wisdom of a simple cook. We're at the casket. I'd never seen my dad cry. But this time I saw my dad cry. That was his daughter. Trina was his daughter, not his daughter-in-law. And I'm right behind my father, about to see her for the last time on this earth. And my father shared 3 words with me that changed my life right there at the casket. It would be the last lesson he would ever teach me. He said, "Son, just stand. You keep standing. You keep standing, no matter how rough the sea, you keep standing." And I'm not talking about just water. You keep standing. No matter what, you don't give up. And as clearly as I'm talking to you today, these were some of her last words to me. She looked me in the eye and she said, "It doesn't matter to me any longer how long I live. What matters to me most is how I live." To ask y'all one question, a question that I was asked all my life by a 3rd grade dropout.
how you living? How you living? Every day, ask yourself that question, how you living? Here's what a cook would suggest you to live this way. That you would not judge, that you would show up early, that you'd be kind, that you'd make sure that that servant's towel is huge and used, that if you're going to do something, you do it the right way. That cook would tell you this, that it's never wrong to do the right thing, that how you do anything is how you do everything. And in that way, you will grow your influence to make an impact. In that way, you will honor all those who have gone before you, who have invested in you. Look in those unlikeliest places for wisdom. Enhance your life every day by seeking that wisdom and asking yourself every night, how am I living? May God richly bless y'all. Thank you for having me here.
It's got to be the at least fifth time I've heard that, and it gets me every time. So.
Yeah, it's at least that, if not more. It's and I know what he's going to say, and it still is so well said. And when you heard him talk about being a lineman, this man's the size of a house. He is humongous.
He's a big dude. And he did, and the speech itself is much longer, but I heard the whole thing at one point, and he did end up getting remarried, and she's just as much of a blessing to him that his first wife was. So he did move on from that. But yeah, what a great speech. It's probably one of the best ones I've ever heard. So
yeah.
Anyway, we hope you were
way better than Scott Pelley's. I'll tell you what. That's this political stuff. It's not political. It's just life. This is what you need to prepare for.
Scott Pelley is just something I can't even
loser.
I can't even. Anyway, we hope you were somewhat informed and had fun like we did. I don't know what that means. Don't forget, you can find us on iTunes,
I didn't either. I'm stumped.
Spotify, iHeart, Amazon Smart Speaker, or Rumble, or wherever you get your podcasts.
And you can just visit our good old website at stayoffmylawn.us for all our past and present episodes.
See you next week, folks.
Totals, and thanks so much, everyone, for listening. Have a wonderful week. Well, we had fun and hope you did too. The opinions heard here today are not those of anyone other than Mike and Richard. If it made you laugh or go, or even, then we've done our job. Sort of. Mostly anyway. And if we made you think about things in a common sense manner, we welcome you to the club. And if it didn't, then just stay off my lawn. See you next time.